On November the 5th, history was made in New York when the 40th district that was created for the councilmatic elections was won by a lady, a Caribbean American, Clarke. That was an historic day. She came up against the odds, so much so that it effected a recount after Carl Andrews was declared the winner. But the lady, the gutsy lady she is, decided that I ain't taking it so. And there was a recount and she was declared the winner. Yes. Clarke, it has been a few months now. Let me say welcome to CultureShare.
Thank you so much for having me.
You all smile. Seem as though that you have been enjoying your workings among the people you so dearly love in the community.
Yes, yes, I do. And since January 1st, I've been really just getting the program together, making sure those things that I promised during my campaign, that I can deliver on them. And so I'm really putting a program together that I think that the community mandated and that I think I can deliver on.
The 40th district, which includes places like Flatbush, we have Crown Heights, Ditmas Park, Prospect and stuff, they incorporated African Americans, Caribbean Americans. And I know that the Haitians made up quite a big chunk of the electorate, and that you've been, you know, very touched by the refugee situation. We just understood that quite a number of them were sent back to Haiti. I know that you have some deep feelings about that.
I am really angered by what has taken place, because I know that if the Haitians were coming from another region, they would not have been allowed to go home. First of all, we all recognize that they are here because the president whom they elected democratically was taken out of the country, that the United States have the power and the ability to have him reinstated, inasmuch as they rescued the president of Russia when he was to be deposed, that could happen in Haiti, and therefore I am really outraged by it.
Another development is the situation at the St. Mark's Episcopal Church, where the Canon Heron Sam, the Reverend, has come in for some very stiff allegations from Bishop Walker, and that has stirred up the emotions among the congregation, and the situation was brought into court. You also made some comments about that, something that also touched you very deeply.
Yes, because the church has a long standing in the community. Reverend Sam has given many years of very, very hard service to that congregation. And I really think that the way in which the information got to the public was unethical in many, many ways. I had a chance to speak briefly with the bishop, and we will be, you know, because it is in litigation, I am not going to, you know, talk on the merits of it, but I've offered myself to be a mediator because my constituents are all also touched by it. I have many letters from members of the congregation who live in my district. I'm also an Episcopalian, so I understand the canons of the church, and really feel that we need to have a negotiated settlement and that it shouldn't have gone that far. And I'm standing ready to be one of those persons to act as a healer in the church, and definitely as a mediator to try to bring together both Canon Sam and the bishop, so that this can be settled in an amicable way.
We read a lot about Councilwoman of the 40th District, Clarke, big title. But sometimes we, you know, I think we really have not come to grips with actually what are your duties in that position.
And if I have any power, huh?
All right, good. If you're a powerhouse or not.
Yeah, you know, the council have much more power than it had in the past. It is a balance to the mayor as a legislative side, and now really have heavy legislative duties and responsibility. We will pass on the mayor's budget. We now have responsibility over land use and land in the districts. But basically what a council person does is to deliver to the community services that are provided by the city, to pass laws that make it workable for all of the residents of the city, and to stay on issues that are important to the betterment of the city, including quality of life issues, whether it's environmental things, whether it has to do with the potholes, the light, the rent increases, those kinds of things.
I remember when you were campaigning for your seat, one of the primary topics that you were mentioning is that you would be very concerned about primary education. What strides have you made in that vein since taking office?
Okay, I have been working very hard, putting the pieces together so that I can be effective. First, today I met with members of the Board of Education, the UFT, some research people to put together what I am considering to be a transitional institute for immigrant students, especially those coming from the Caribbean, so that they will be first properly evaluated, that teachers will get a sense of the students prior to their being placed in a classroom, and that their parents will get some initial orientation towards school and schooling in the United States. And we feel that that will assist the students to have a better transition to school, plus they can be better placed in their classroom, because as you know here, students are placed based on their ages rather than their academic standing, as we do in the Caribbean in particular. So I'm really going to be trying to work on the cutting edge as an educator myself, to make sure that something can happen to move our students forward. We're targeting District 17 because it is the larger of the 3 school districts that are in the 40th district. And that's a large population of immigrant students with whom the schools are really trying to do something but are not getting anywhere.
That's what areas actually?
It will take East Flatbush, Crown Heights, and a number of our students from 17 also get bused into District 22 and into 18. So we really want to bring the school officials together to take a real good look at how we can really move our students forward.
Speaking of education, I'm thinking now of the situation at the Medgar College, where 80% of the student population is Caribbean American or Caribbean. The faculty, not much of a Caribbean American origin, and so there have been some problems with the president making comments not not interpreted in the best manner, and so lots of people are not happy. The situation is grave. The curriculum is not in the best interest of the students. I've been reading. You have also said that it's a situation that concerns you and you're looking at it.
Yes.
What's the latest position?
Okay, I have with other Caribbean American leaders met with the president. We expressed our concern for the remarks that were made, and we are satisfied in a sense that he did not mean any harm in the expression that was made, one. And number two, that he is making a good faith effort to reorganize the college so that it can respond to the needs of the student population, which would include the Caribbean American students. We're still looking not so much at him, but at people around him and people in the college who have always demonstrated and acted as though they were anti-Caribbean American.
When we use the term Caribbean American, you know, one we get the impression that it's, I mean, they see just one streamlined group of people, but actually it's an amalgamation of people from different cultures, different backgrounds.
That's right.
And so you get different reactions to certain situations.
Yes.
Do that sometimes make you feel, give you the feeling that, and you say to yourself, why am I in this? I could have been doing some child care or daycare somewhere, or running some...
That which I know best.
Right.
No, I feel that we have an obligation and a responsibility to take part in all aspects of the life of the United States of America, and in New York City in particular. I think that we are large numbers, and we should bear both the responsibility for our lives as well as we receive the benefits of the country. We pay taxes, and taxation without representation is not good. So I think that, and also politics affects all aspects of our lives. The person who issued you your passport was a politician or a political appointee. So even coming here, the first person who touched your life to come here is a politician. The food you eat in this town, politics decide what they grow and what they don't grow on the farms here. So our lives are touched by politics. And I have been saying to all of us, we need to register and vote. We need to become citizens in large numbers. Can you imagine the kind of policy that we could effect in Washington if we would all join arms together as Caribbean Americans? America's policy towards the region would be different. We would not be having trouble with IMF right now if, as Caribbean Americans, we became citizens, we registered to vote, we would form our own lobby and our governments wouldn't have to do that. The Jewish community does that on behalf of Israel. And I think we have that obligation to the region from which we come. So we really have to understand that our daily lives, as well as the countries from which we come, foreign policy will be determined by the way in which we conduct ourselves, by the way we become citizens, register and to vote, never mind the power we would have within our own community to determine what happens there.
Councilwoman, I have heard that Caribbean Americans, blacks, we have unity, yes, but we're not organized. Case in point, the Crown Heights affair. We all came out and a lot of noise were made, right? There was unity in the streets, but there were no subsequent organization to effect the kind of change that we like to see in the community. Do you support that, or do you think that's a by-the-side comment or such?
No, it's not a by-the-side comment, but what I think that we ought to do, we ought to be very, very serious. All of us of African descent have to come together and understand that our destinies are tied, so that although I come as an immigrant and is considered a Caribbean American, that African Americans, Caribbean Americans, Africans from the motherland, that until we join arms together, understand a common heritage, a common destiny, and act as others have, in unity and in unison, we will never get what we deserve, both the respect as well as fair share of the resources of this country.
One thing that is of concern also, you mentioned about immigrants, and it is something I find that is not touched on tremendously, but it's something that's there in the community. The whole question of illegal immigration. From the Caribbean, we have hosts of people coming to the U.S. and, okay, to speak in layman terms, overstaying their time on a multiple visa and stuff.
They're undocumented. They are not illegal.
Right,
they're
undocumented. Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Now, and the reason is that you find that the perception that one has in the Caribbean about their relatives and friends in New York, in the USA, is a perception of streets of gold. And so there is that urge for one to leave the Caribbean to come to the US no matter what.
Yes.
Do you think there needs to be some sort of education to instill in the Caribbean people that if you're going to leave the Caribbean to come to the US, make sure you come as a documented alien?
Well, that's not just from the region that people come illegally. People come from Poland through Canada into the United States. When they try to close the borders of Mexico, thinking that's the only region from which people got here illegal. You know, there are many, many undocumented aliens in this country, Irish. So we need not feel guilty that if we are told that this is a land of opportunity, once we come and we work hard, I don't see any shame to it. I think you cannot separate economic hardship from political hardship, and I think that's what the United States is using against Haiti right now, is that they are coming because of economic hardship and not the politics of that country.
Yes, but I'm looking at a different scenario. The scenario of let's take the Eastern Caribbean, where on a comparative basis, in terms of instability and such, politically, it is not as terrible as, say, some other countries, like Haiti, for instance. You see, what I'm saying is that a lot of Caribbean people have come to this country undocumented and have suffered a lot of frustration.
Oh, sure, of course.
Going out there to work, getting little or no wage.
They're exploited. Yes.
Right?
They are
and
exploited.
what they expected has been a different situation altogether.
Sure.
Some people suffer from stress, some people they just give up hope, and some people regretted that they ever left a job in the Caribbean. And that's why I mentioned that, do we need to educate the people in the Caribbean about the situation as is?
I think we'll never be able to convince people, especially those of us who come and do well. It's going to be very hard to convince people that they can come here and that it will be a real tough life. Everybody has to experience it to know it. What we need to do is build an infrastructure ourselves, those of us who are successful, to receive, to help, and to have them settle easily, whether through training or whatever we need to do, as others have done for their own immigrants who come to this country. We need to set that kind of infrastructure for our own so that they can depend on us.
Councilwoman Clarke, let me say thank you very much for being on CultureShare. I admire your courage.
It is my pleasure to be on CultureShare, and want to say to you that please encourage our community to participate in politics, become registered, to vote, because we have a future in the city, and only together can we aspire, only together can we achieve.
And for all the African ladies who think that the politics of the African American or Caribbean African is a man's world, you are there to make them think otherwise.
Of course, a woman brings a special kind of sensitivity to government, of course, a depth that a man can never have.
Councilwoman, thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much to have me on CultureShare.
Great.
And I enjoyed so much.
Fine.
Good, thanks.